Ever wondered if sending bright minds abroad on scholarships, actually benefits the home country in the long run?
We dug into a fascinating study about Malaysia's approach to this very question, and, well, the findings might surprise you.
Yeah, it's a big question.
It really is. For like every 10 bright Malaysian students sent abroad, it seems almost half don't come back to directly contribute their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a huge potential drain on the nation's progress, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And this deep dive really takes us into that world, the government-funded scholarships in Malaysia. We're talking programs like MRA, JPA, that's the Public Service Department one, and Petronas.
Right?
And we're asking, is this huge investment in educating their best talent overseas actually paying off for Malaysia itself?
Exactly. We've been poring over this research paper. It's called Malaysia's Scholarship Gamble, How Many Will Actually Come Home?
Catchy title.
It is. And it really gets into the numbers and maybe more importantly, the reasons why these scholars decide to return or stay put abroad.
So our mission today really is to unpack how effective Malaysia's scholarship system is.
And we'll look at the challenges they're facing in getting their scholars back home after they finish studying. We'll also explore some potential solutions, maybe by looking at what other countries are doing.
Yeah.
Think of this as your kind of shortcut to understanding a pretty complex issue without wading through stacks of reports.
Okay, let's get into it then. The core issue here, it seems, it's this sort of tension between brain drain and brain circulation. Can you maybe break those down for us?
Sure. So brain drain, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like, is the permanent emigration of highly skilled people from their home country. It's a big worry for a lot of developing nations investing in education.
Okay, loss.
Yeah, loss. But then there's brain circulation. This idea, pushed by people like Saxenian, suggests that even temporary moves can be a win-win. So even if folks don't come back for good, they might still contribute, through sharing knowledge, collaborations, building international networks, that kind of thing.
Okay, so Malaysia's hoping for that circulation, getting benefits even if people are abroad, but it sounds like they might be dealing more with the straightforward drain.
That seems to be the heart of it, yes. The research suggests Malaysia is grappling with a pretty significant level of brain drain, especially concerning these government-sponsored scholars.
So what are the actual numbers? Can you give us a snapshot?
Well, okay, according to a 2021 report from Malaysia's Ministry of Education, the study found only about 58% of JPA scholars remember. The Public Service Department ones who finished between 2015 and 2020 actually came back to Malaysia.
Only 58%. Wow.
Yeah, that leaves, nearly half staying overseas.
Less than 60%. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, Penny. Why? Why are so many choosing not to come back?
Right. The study really digs into the factors behind those choices. Top of the list, better career prospects abroad. A huge 72% mentioned that.
72%. Okay.
Then 45% said they were dissatisfied with the local work culture in Malaysia. And maybe surprisingly, 38% said they were willing to just pay back the bond penalties for not returning.
Pay the penalty. Just like that.
Apparently. Which really highlights something critical, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
For a good chunk of these scholars, the opportunities overseas are so much better that they see the bond as just, well, a cost of doing business, sort of an entry fee to a better career.
That bond penalty thing, it brings up an interesting point. I've sort of assumed these bonds were, pretty foolproof, a guarantee they'd come back.
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? The scholarship bond paradox in Malaysia. Legally, yes, they're obligated to return and serve for a set time, but the enforcement, it seems it's been inconsistent. There's another study, Lee and Khalid from 2020, that backs this up. They found only around 62% of JPA scholars actually fulfilled their bond requirements.
62%.
Yeah, with quite a few just choosing to pay the penalty instead.
So the bond almost becomes like an exit fee if you find something better somewhere else.
Precisely. And this really leads us nicely into the whole push and pull factors idea.
Yeah.
Things pushing scholars out of Malaysia and things pulling them towards other countries.
Okay, let's dive into those. What are the main things pushing Malaysian talent away? The push factors.
Okay, so the World Bank looked at this in 2021. Key push factors they identified inside Malaysia include limited opportunities for really high-skilled jobs in some key sectors.
Right.
Also, bureaucratic hurdles, red tape that can kind of stifle your career growth. And generally speaking, lower salaries compared to what these highly qualified people could potentially earn in, say, developed economies.
Yeah, makes sense. So what about the other side? What are the big pull factors drawing them elsewhere?
Well, the OECD data from 2022 points to some strong pull factors in places like Singapore, Australia, the UK. We're talking better salaries, obviously,
Hmm.
more chances for research and development, R&D, and maybe crucially, a perception of more meritocratic career paths where how far you go depends more purely on your skills and what you achieve. I mean, think about it, right? If you spent years getting a top-notch education, you'd naturally want to be in a place where your skills are really valued and, frankly, rewarded financially.
Definitely. It's like you train up your star player, invest everything in them, and then they get snapped up by another team offering way more money and better facilities.
Exactly. It's a tough situation.
So, are there other countries maybe dealing with similar things who've found ways to make it work better? Any success stories?
Yes, absolutely. The study highlights a couple of interesting cases. Singapore, for instance, really stands out with its bonded scholarship
Oh,
system.
yeah. How do they do?
They apparently have a remarkably high return rate, over 90%.
90%. Wow. Okay. What's their secret then? What are they doing differently?
Well, it seems to be a combination of things. First, they're apparently very strict about enforcing the bond agreements. Real consequences if you default.
Ah, okay. Teeth.
Exactly. And second, they make sure returning scholars get placed into high-paying jobs, often in the public sector. So returning is actually a financially good move. Singapore's Ministry of Education data from 2022 confirms these high return rates.
Strict enforcement plus good jobs waiting. That sounds like a powerful combo. Any other models?
India offers a different kind of approach, focusing more on engaging their diaspora, their experts living abroad. They have this program called the Global Initiative of Academic Networks, JACAN. It successfully brings back experts from the Indian diaspora for short-term teaching and research gigs.
Interesting. So they get the knowledge transfer without needing permanent relocation.
Exactly. It facilitates that knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
And they also use a broader strategy called the diaspora knowledge exchange model to sort of tap into the brain power of their global talent pool in various ways.
So it's not just about getting bodies back, but finding ways to leverage the skills and knowledge wherever they are. Okay, so bringing it back to Malaysia, based on all this, where are the main shortcomings? Where's the system falling short?
The study points to several policy gaps. We've already talked about the weak bond enforcement, right? Which lets many scholars default without major repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
Another big one is mismatched incentives. Local salaries and career paths often just aren't competitive enough to lure top talent back from countries with higher living standards and more dynamic job markets.
So the pull factors elsewhere are just too strong.
They often are. And finally, there seems to be a lack of really good reintegration support for those who do come back. Some face bureaucratic headaches just trying to find a suitable job that matches their qualifications.
Okay, so we see the problems pretty clearly. What does the study actually suggest Malaysia could do? What are the concrete recommendations?
Right, the study lays out several specific ideas. First, regarding bond enforcement, it suggests getting much stricter, maybe taking a page from Singapore's book.
Like what specifically?
Things like potentially blacklisting defaulters from government contracts, maybe imposing tougher penalties like travel bans or even wage garnishment, things with real bite.
Okay, that would certainly raise the stakes. What else?
Second, they talk about enhancing career pathways. The idea is to basically guarantee high-value jobs for returning scholars, especially in government-linked companies, GLCs, or in those growing tech hubs.
Make them an offer they can't refuse, almost.
Kind of, or at least an offer that's genuinely competitive. They also suggest actively pushing for partnerships with multinational companies in Malaysia to create more of those high-level roles.
Right, offer opportunities that are actually appealing and match their skills. Makes sense.
Exactly. Third, leveraging the diaspora is seen as crucial. Malaysia could potentially adopt a model like India's diaspora knowledge exchange to tap into the expertise of Malaysians abroad.
How?
Well, maybe offering things like tax incentives for scholars who contribute remotely, perhaps consulting or collaborating on projects back home.
That's clever. Get the benefit even without the physical return.
Okay, and the last key recommendation. The final one focuses on reforming the scholarship selection process itself. Maybe prioritizing candidates who already have stronger ties to Malaysia, family. Maybe previous work experience there could increase the odds of them actually returning after studying abroad.
Interesting. So kind of betting on those more likely to come back from the start.
Potentially, yeah. It's one factor to consider.
Okay, so let's try and sum up this deep dive. Malaysia's pouring significant resources into educating its future leaders overseas, which is great.
But They're facing a real struggle getting enough of those leaders to actually come home and contribute directly.
Right. And addressing those policy gaps we talked about, especially around enforcing bonds and, crucially, creating genuinely attractive jobs and career paths back home, seems absolutely vital.
It does. Because without those changes, the risk is that Malaysia keeps effectively subsidizing the talent pools of other, often wealthier nations.
It's a tough balancing act.
It really is.
Yeah.
And look, some level of brain drain is probably unavoidable in today's globalized world. But strategic policy changes, learning from places like Singapore and India, could definitely help Malaysia reduce those losses and get a better return on its huge investment in its people.
So thinking about all these insights,
Hmm.
what do you think is the right balance? How much should a country invest in sending people abroad versus ensuring that talent actually contributes back home? It's a dilemma lots of countries are wrestling with, right?
Right, it is. And maybe it forces us to ask, what does contribution really mean? Perhaps the long-term win isn't solely measured by counting how many scholars physically come back.
Hmm.
Maybe it's also about fostering a strong, connected global network of Malaysian talent. People who can contribute valuable expertise in many different ways, even from afar, if the country puts the right connections and incentives in place. It's probably a more nuanced picture than just, return rates.